3 orphans stand in front of a gate, wondering about the outside world, despite being forbidden to go anywhere near it. But what's so dangerous about the gate? Is it keeping them in or keeping something out? In the morning, the 3 eldest orphans, Emma, Ray, and Norman, help prepare breakfast for the other children in the house. All 38 of them have a series of numbers tattooed on their necks. After breakfast, they take one of their regularly scheduled tests. The 3 of them get perfect scores, like always. Dawn stands up, jealous, and challenges Norman to a game of tag. But no one can beat Norman. He has a plan for everything. The last one standing is Emma. Norman trips, hitting the ground face first, only to trip up Emma, luring her out of hiding. The game ends. She's caught. Emma, Ray, and Norman stop at the fence surrounding the perimeter. It's only knee-high. What's the point of a fence if it neither keeps people in nor out? That night, Connie gets ready to leave, while all the children bid her farewell and good luck with her new adopted family. Emma notices that she left her stuffed rabbit. She and Norman hurry to return it before Connie leaves the orphanage, but they can't seem to find her. That is, until Emma looks in the back of a truck waiting just beyond the forbidden gate. It's Connie, or at least her body, with a flower piercing the center of her chest, blossoming blood red. Someone, or something, hears them, and they hide under the truck, witnessing 2 creatures drop Connie's limp corpse into a vat of blue liquid, referring to her as merchandise. Emma and Norman run, accidentally leaving the stuffed rabbit behind. It's not an orphanage, it's a farm, raising kids like cattle. Ray eavesdrops while the 2 agree to escape, no matter what. The next morning, Emma struggles to keep it together, while Norman urges her to smile and pretend they didn't see anything. The 2 speak privately, trying to ascertain what exactly happened the night before. Why did the demons complain about shipping another 6-year-old? Norman recognizes a pattern. They only ship kids between the ages of 6 and 12, starting with the lowest test scorers, while only those with the highest scores stay until they're shipped out at 12 years old. It's not their weight or the amount of meat on their bones. If it were, why not use adults? No, it must have something to do with intelligence, their brains. Norman figures they have 2 months to escape before the next child gets shipped out. There are only 2 options for escape, through the forest or the front gate. But when they jump over the knee-high fence, they discover a giant, unguarded concrete wall at the edge of the forest. The children gather after their time playing outside, though 2 are missing after a head count. 1 runs out of the forest crying, saying he lost one of the girls. Mom, the sister responsible for raising the children, pulls out what looks to be a pocket watch and comes back minutes later with the girl sleeping in her arms. Emma and Norman wonder how Mom can find them so quickly. Then it dawns on them. It's not a watch, it's a tracker. They're chipped. They figure that Mom is their enemy after such an obvious display of power, serving as a deterrent. Mom confronts Emma, noticing that she's been acting strange. But Emma plays it off while Norman hides around the corner, trying his best to maintain his composure. Just when they think they're in the clear, Mom asks them if they were at the gate last night. They vehemently deny the accusations, and Emma collapses when they reach the bottom of the stairs. Norman helps her up with a shaky hand, while Ray lurks around the corner. Norman steals sheets, tying them together to use as rope, which he and Emma hide in a tree. They agree to let Ray in on their plan, but he's already been following them, and he makes them tell him what they saw. Emma insists that they have to save everyone, but Ray tries to be more pragmatic. If there is no place for humans in the outside world, then she will make one. Back at the house, they find another sister, Krone. Mom gives Krone the room at the top of the stairs, which complicates things, making it harder to sneak around undetected. They need to find out where the trackers are implanted in their bodies. Since Carol, a new child, just showed up, she might still have a scar from the implant. Mom tells Krone that some of the older kids have discovered the truth. Krone plots to use this against Mom, Isabella, since keeping it a secret is against the rules. The kids know Mom is onto them. Emma discovers a scar on Carol's ear where they implanted the tracker. Ray explains that the trackers don't notify Mom when they're close to the wall or the gate, and that they don't display the individual's name, but they might send a notification once destroyed, and it might be obvious if they cut them out. So Ray decides to find some way to work around it. To train the other kids, they use playing tag as cover. Krone notices and proposes they play a game of tag with a 20-minute time limit where she's the one who's it. Chasing Emma, she goes over their weaknesses to instill fear: Norman's physical strength, Ray's tendency to give up too quickly, and Emma's naivety. Krone mentions something about the harvest before sneaking up on her, saying they're on the same side. Time's up. Ray and Norman win. The three think that someone might be spying on them for Mom due to the sudden appearance of Krone. Norman decides to set a trap to weed out the spy. They split the children into groups to practice formations and tactics to prepare for the escape. Norman asks how long Ray needs to build the device to disable the trackers. 10 days. It's settled. They'll make their escape in 10 days. They decide to tell Dawn and Gilda, two of the oldest kids beneath them, so they can be team leaders and help out. That night, Emma sees Gilda leave the room to speak with Krone, while a note is slipped underneath Mom's door. Gilda tells Krone nothing's wrong, but she isn't buying it. They rule out Gilda, while Dawn realizes that playing tag is really training for the escape. Whoever is spying, they must be doing it for a reason. They figure it's for some sort of immunity. Norman asks Emma if she would still bring the traitor along when they escape, to which she replies that she will save everyone, no matter what. The rope Norman hid under his bed is gone. The only one who knew about it other than him was Ray. It turns out that Ray's been spying for Mom for quite a long time. Norman wants him to stay close and only asks three things of him: stay and guarantee his own safety, share all the info he's gathered, and change sides to spy for them instead. Ray explains that he was the one who orchestrated the events leading to Emma and Norman discovering the truth about the house. Ray volunteered to work for Mom if she promised not to ship him off and to gain her favor so he could gather items to build a device to deactivate the trackers, all so he could save both Emma and Norman so they could live and escape the farm. Ray only asks for one thing: lie to Emma about saving everyone. Gilda and Emma notice that Mom disappears just before 8 p.m. each night, which must mean there's a secret room where she checks in with HQ. Despite Ray's warnings, Dawn and Gilda try to find the entrance by going into Mom's room, but the door is locked and they narrowly avoid detection. Dawn decides to pickpocket the secret room's key from Mom. Emma discovers that somebody has been leaving messages in the library books using Morse code, which means there might be people on the outside helping them escape. Dawn and Gilda discover the belongings of all the previous children who've been shipped from the house. They start to doubt whether Emma, Ray, and Norman are telling them everything. They hear the door above open. Mom's in her office and suspects something's up when a kid bursts through the door and returns the missing key. The three of them tell Dawn and Gilda the truth, and Dawn loses it. After he calms down, he realizes they were just trying to protect them. Despite knowing the dangers, they agree to continue helping with the plan. The kids have to see what's beyond the wall and devise a plan to distract Mom. As they are discussing the plan in the forest, Krone appears from behind a tree and confronts them, proposing that they all join forces. Norman agrees to hear her out. Her plan? Get rid of Isabella and become the mom of the house. Then Krone reveals the tattoo on her neck to the children's surprise. She goes on to explain how some girls, at the age of 12, are given the choice to become a mom. She reveals the implant in her chest, explaining that moms can't leave the premises or else their hearts will stop, and if they die, HQ is notified. They can't kill Mom after all. If she lets the kids escape, then Isabella will be punished and removed from her position. Emma is skeptical, but they both have dirt on each other now, so they make a deal. Krone offers to share information as a sign of good faith. So Emma and Norman go to Krone's room that night. She shows them where the tracking devices are and confirms their suspicions about how the tracking chips work. They ask about the outside world, but she can't tell them anything since she's never seen it. When they turn to leave, Krone begins cackling since she figured out that they already knew everything she told them by observing their reactions while she was answering their questions. Ray's final gift from Mom is a Polaroid camera. They devise a plan to distract Mom so they can scout what's on the other side of the wall. Since Krone discovered they can break the trackers, they need to execute their escape plans sooner rather than later. Krone begins searching for the device they made to disable the trackers, but only finds a note. She becomes panicked when Isabella knocks on her door with a letter telling her she has to go back to HQ. Krone refuses to let it play out how Isabella wants. When she reaches the gate, she meets with Grandma, the mom's boss, but her pleading and information about the escape won't save her now. She thought she was handing Isabella over on a silver platter. Turns out, she was the main course. But she did have one ace up her sleeve. She left the children a few items to help their escape. When Ray tries to distract Mom so the others can scout, she reveals that she got rid of Krone, and now she's getting rid of Ray. She knows he's a double agent. Dawn goes to help Ray, and they run after Emma and Norman to save them from Mom's punishment. She pleads with the children to give up on trying to escape, but they refuse. Mom breaks Emma's leg so that they can't escape, but not only that, now she's powerless to help Norman after Mom reveals he's being shipped out tomorrow. Despite all the setbacks, Ray is still adamant about following through with their escape plans. Norman remains calm and tries to console Emma, knowing that everything is beginning to look hopeless and their plans have been thwarted at every turn. Ray and Emma agree that they're getting Norman out regardless. Their proposal is for him to fake an escape until everyone else is ready to execute the plan. But Norman isn't sold on the idea, coming to terms with being shipped out and his own death, but he won't let anyone else risk their lives. Ray's device to disable the transmitter is finally finished after 6 years of planning. Norman wonders how Ray even found out the truth. He explains that some people remember being an infant, where usually infantile amnesia makes people forget. He's known from the very beginning. Norman finds the stash left by Krone, which changes his mind and convinces him to go through with the plan. But upon making it to the top of the wall, Mom notices his tracker is still active as he returns to the house looking defeated. He calms down Emma and Ray, explaining that the wall isn't just a wall, it's the edge of a cliff. The whole perimeter is surrounded by a giant ditch. However, Norman still has an escape plan. He learns that the facility is a hexagon, with one bridge most likely leading from the HQ to the outside world. There is, however, one spot which looks promising. They still have a chance to make it to the other side. The children all gather to see Norman off. He says goodbye and tells Emma the rest is up to her. But she leaps at him, dropping her crutches and handing him the device to destroy the tracker. He returns it, telling her it's okay and to never give up. Mom warns Emma that if she ever does anything like that again, she'll kill her. On their way to the gate, Mom notes that Norman's suitcase is empty, while he asks her if she's happy. Caught off guard, Isabella almost loses her composure, but replies that she is. After all, she beat him. The smaller children all note how depressed the older kids are now that Norman is gone. Ray loses all hope and gives up on escaping. And Mom tries to console Emma by saying that she'll put in a good word so that Emma can become a mom too. What else can she do? Emma refuses her offer. What kind of life is that, sending kids you raised to their death? On the night before Ray's birthday, the day he'll be shipped out, Emma finds him and confirms that she still hasn't given up on escape. Ray is on the same page. They've been keeping quiet and avoiding contact so Mom doesn't suspect them. Emma reveals that she left Gilda and Dawn in charge of preparing for the escape by enlisting some of the younger kids. Ray says escaping during the day is too dangerous. They have to do it now, that night. He has a plan to set the house on fire, block the secret room to cut off communication with HQ, and use the Molotov cocktails he hid in the forest to keep the guards distracted. However, Ray is still not okay with taking everyone. They should at least leave the toddlers, or else escape won't be possible. Emma is concerned that Mom will simply abandon the house. However, he has a plan for that as well. Ray douses himself in gasoline. Mom can't lose the products, and demons aren't too keen on barbecue. She'll have no choice but to try and save Ray, giving everyone else time to escape. Emma gasps as he strikes a match. With a wild look in his eyes, he'll finally be the one to have the last laugh. He thanks her for everything, dropping the match. Emma leaps forward, attempting to stop him before it's too late. Mom rushes to find Emma on her knees, screaming his name. She only cares about saving his brain, telling Emma to run. But she's already gone, though her tracker's signal is stationary. Mom runs to catch her, only to find a severed ear under a bucket in the bathroom. It hits her. They're making their move. Emma books it, meeting up with the other kids waiting in the forest. There stands a completely shocked, wide-eyed Ray, holding the left side of his head where his tracker used to be. It turns out that Emma was successful in her attempt to catch the match before it hit the ground, slapping some sense into Ray while some of the kids are preparing their various makeshift items to aid in the escape. Norman left a note detailing the new plan since he knew Ray's intentions the whole time. Dawn tells Ray that everyone already knows the truth. It was Emma's idea. For the past 2 months, they've been secretly getting ready for this very moment. Emma and Norman had a few of the older kids listen in on a conversation they had with Krone to convince them of the truth. Slowly, they all started to believe the reality of the house's secret. While Emma pretended to be despondent, she was really instructing the other kids, waiting for the perfect moment. Emma, Gilda, and Dawn all decide to leave all the kids under 5 behind for the time being. But Gilda thinks it's unfair that they should be the only house to escape. The farm is made up of 5 houses, including theirs, so Emma devises a plan to save every single child from the farm. She gets Phil, one of the younger kids, and confirms what he already suspects. She asks him what they should do. To their surprise, he agrees that they should leave the younger kids behind until they can come back to save everyone. Norman found a spot before being shipped where it should be possible to cross to the other side. They don't need to use the bridge after all. They successfully get Dawn to the other side and set up makeshift zip lines using coat hangers to get the others across. Mom realizes they aren't using the bridge after HQ reports they haven't seen the kids. She catches up to them right as Emma, the last one to go, jumps off the edge, zip-lining to the other side where the kids cut the lines so no one can follow them. Isabella has flashbacks of her youth, remembering her own defiance and the moment she lost all hope of escape. She became a sister, having a child of her own, and became the mother of House 4. When she arrived for the first time, she heard a child humming a song that her childhood friend wrote. It's Ray. He wonders why she gave birth to him, her biological son. Isabella returns to the children that were left behind. Seeing the look on Phil's face, she tells him not to worry. They escaped. The escapees run throughout the night and witness a sunrise from the top of a cliff, looking over the outside world, covered in lush forests, teeming with life. Food no longer, they will survive. And when they are ready, they'll come back and free every last child, saving them from an existence of being raised like cattle to satiate the appetites of monsters. Thank you for sticking until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.